What made you choose your career in gamification? I mean, this is not a very typical career like engineering, doctorate, or things like that. This is something fresh. This is something new. This is something different. So, what is that made you choose this career? I mean, a lot of students of mine, or maybe someone else, or maybe others, not just the students, would like to choose this career. So, what was the motivation behind you choosing this career?
Well, for me as an educator, it just looked amazing. You know, when you're in your classroom with your students, you may know that you try to engage your students as much as possible and make them be like create a commitment with the task you have to assign to them. Sometimes they are not very motivated to work, so it's hard, right, to get good outcomes from every class you have and every teaching experience. So it looks amazing. I looked at some projects that they were going around using like geography with a zombie apocalypse and these narratives that you implement in the classrooms, and I really got caught about it. And it was exciting. I wanted to know how to design these kind of strategies, so I started studying master's degree and then doing my own research and at the university doing some like project with other collaborators and professors from the university, and I really got really engaged with this methodology. I don't hear you right now. Sorry, I don't know if it's my fault.
Yeah, I think my
Nah,
mic was mute. Yeah. So,
yeah.
what exactly is your area in gamification? Like, somebody specializes in escape rooms, somebody specializes in engaging people. So, what is your exactly area? Can you elaborate a little about that?
Well, as because I work in elementary, what I usually have to do is design a gamification for the whole year, or maybe for some different projects. So what I do mostly is try to work with behaviors. So because you are with the little ones, so first you need to make them is a to behave in a proper way and get some routines of habits of work and how to study at home and gain independence and competence and this sense of uh, self-knowing, no? And so that's the what I mostly do, these long-term gamifications or projects, but also for assessment of different units, teaching units or projects. I love to work with escape rooms or breakouts. Uh, but for that, for me, it's very important to work with other people. You know, when you design your gamification for the whole year, or for maybe for a subject in particular, maybe you can work a little bit more alone or in an independent way. But when you try to design these strategies, you can do it alone, but it's much more fun when you collaborate with other teachers.
Right.
And now we are building a community, a very interesting community here in Spain and with South America, mostly because of the we share the same language, and
Okay.
it's very interesting to combine all those strategies together.
Great to know that you are doing also something new other than the usual activities. Okay. So, which elements of games generally do you use?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Which elements of the games generally do you use to have some creative gamification? Everyone would come out with some creativity that, okay, even if it is not online, if it is in physical space, I would have this plan for me ready, and my students, I will take it like this to them. So, what kind of elements generally you play with?
Well, for me, it's very important that the students have something to play with because they are, as I told you, toddlers, and it's important to have, if it's a physical gamification, when they come to school, as tokens or medals or badges, something they can play and feel related to, and they can put in maybe in a big bulletin board or something like that, that we grow with the project and we evolve. So it's very interesting to have that. Also, Well, I don't usually use rankings because I don't like very much the sense of competence that he inherent in this kind of competition gamification. So I'm not that fan of these kind of elements. But when I use competition, is like the group against the narrative. So mostly narratives and storytelling is what I include in my gamification, something that make the experience vivid and more immersive for the students. But also I love to play with cards, I love to play with dices, and I love to play with challenges, like
Okay.
mini breakouts. They have to struggle a little bit to get on with the contents, with the challenge.
Great, great. So leaderboard is a no-no for you. You won't like to have leaderboards.
I don't like it in a sense of competitions among students, like this is better than me, or this is better
Mhm.
than the others, or I'm on top, because sometimes the kind of motivation it awakes is a little bit, it's not more about self-reckoning and about how good I am, but how good I am as compared to others, which is not what I try to work with the students. I need them to develop their competence as much as it is possible for them individually. So when you are comparing with others, sometimes you can transform the maybe little motivation or very high motivation of a student with maybe low what do you say, with low outcomes, no, or low grades, and you see that you're always low, so your motivation kind of decreases over time. So that's why I don't usually use it. And if I use it, I use it for specific activities or specific competitions, because sometimes it's fun to compete, no? But mostly when you do it cooperatively in little groups, and it's a group against other groups, and you do
Yeah.
heterogeneous, no, groupings, so there are people more competent and others less competent in each group, so they help each other, no, with different abilities.
Okay. So, can you share some best of your experiences, some incident which is out of the box, you never thought about it, some unique insight that you would like to share with us? Any kind of incident, interesting incident?
Well, I've experienced the best, and I think, well, maybe not the worst, but I've seen the good side and the bad side of this. What I was telling you in the question before, when you have a kid highly motivated and you work in a project of school that wasn't designed by me, and then you start the activities, and everybody is so excited about the activity because the idea was very good, but then you see these rankings and leaderboards, and when it's not very well designed, so you consider all possibilities and all outcomes of all students, and you are doing this for the fun, and you are doing this for improving the quality of the teaching program, and then you see students are getting apart, getting behind, and there is no way for them to come back. That's hard. And when you see that in a kid, that's very hard. We're not working with adults that maybe can endure better, or they can say, okay, I didn't do well this time, maybe next time. But it is very important for me to compensate always, with this the theory of flow, where the students really are flowing, they are going, not taken by the by the current, not taken away, but flowing, right? So that's the most important. And I've seen the best of it, students which are with a very low motivation to work, and then you ask them what kind of topics they like, and say maybe, we love Pokemons, okay, then we will work like morphology or something like that, no? Like
Mhm.
a friend of mine does it, who designed a genially recently about Pokemons, and we're asking the students what they like, and they are so excited to work something they didn't like at all, but because they are like hunting Pokemons and getting
Mhm.
rewards and playing with them, and now they enjoy so much resolving all the problems and all the tasks, and facing all the challenges you want to put in front of them. And that is amazing. It's a great experience as a teacher to see them enjoy doing what they are supposed to do, and they weren't like they're not supposed to do, to like some aspect of math or maybe literacy. But then because you implement these kind of strategies and the gamification designs, they enjoy so much, and that's amazing.
Great to know that. Really agree with that. Even I have to play games. I don't really like games, but because I'm into this field of gamification, I started gaining interest in that, and now I'm enjoying. Okay, so I have downloaded several, installed several games and different types of games. I just want to know what are the different stages, what are the different types of games, how you can play different elements, and so on and so forth. So,
Definitely.
how do you go about gamification? Is it instantly comes to your mind that okay, this is the mood of the class or this is the mood of the session today, so we'll go by this game, or is it like you pre-plan everything and strategize? Okay, this is how we'll go. This should be the learning outcome, and so on and so forth. So, are there any steps involved? Do you have any standardized procedure for gamification? Because choosing itself, as I know, is very difficult. Choosing a game for a particular session because everyone's motivation is different. So so how do you
That's it.
choose that? So how do you choose that particular game? How do you customize it?
Well,
So
for
would you like
me,
to
for
share?
me, yeah, for me, that's the main difference between game-based learning and gamification. With game-based learning, maybe you can have a particular game for a particular session where you have to work with a content or a competence, and you want to develop it, or maybe make them memorize something or learn something. But gamification for me is something more profound, something more in a planned way. It's not an activity, it's a methodology. So it's something you don't just implement in a way, but at the same time you're working with people, and as you well said, motivations are different for everyone, and maybe the weather changes and they're not in the mood to play that
Correct.
day. And we know motivation, it's not something you can force, and gamification is not something you can force either. You have to make them play voluntarily, and if they don't want to play, you shouldn't force them to play, right? So, well, mainly working with kids, if you're an expert in something, you're an expert in improvisation. So definitely you will improvise most of the sessions. But if your main how you say checkpoints of your gamification, your pillars of your design are well constructed, it is hard, so that you have to deviate a lot. So maybe they're not in the mood to play a specific game one day, but well, then maybe you can go like back to normal somehow if they don't want to play that day. Or if you bring in something that they are not like, they feel bored or they are not enjoying that much, maybe you can come out with something funnier. Well, for me, again, that's the key with the narrative. If you have a good narrative, you may improvise, but it's like a role game where the
Mm.
game master is telling you that you are going to enter the crypt, and then you will find the crypt guardian asking you a question, and then you roll the dice, and if you get a 6, then you can go in, and if not, Cerberus will come and tear you apart or whatever, right? So if you are confident with a narrative, you can take the students up and down, right or left, not at your choice, but it will be easily manipulated in some way, right? Because
Managed.
they have this sense of commitment with the task, and you cannot just leave the mission because the mission needs you, and you are maybe a hero, and you have to go and continue with the task, right? And you are so deep in the narrative that it's It's loud. You cannot just leave, right? But well, you can convince them more easily with that. As they grow up, as they are older students, well, you have to work in a different way maybe. But still, you said that now I'm enjoying games a little more. Well, everyone loves to play if it is the adequate game. So you have to study your group very well. It's not, hey, I come with this game that you will love, and I played with my 6-year-old kid and he loved it. And then you look at your audience, it's like people 24, 25 years old. It's like, no, probably that's not going to work. Or maybe yes, but you don't know, right? You need to know that before. So gamification, you need to know your group before you start your design. Game-based learning, maybe you can get to know your audience or your students on the way, and then you see, oh, this will work. Or it's something that you think that it probably work and you include it in your methodology, right? But it's something that you don't need maybe to plan that much before, because it's a specific moment of your lesson plan and it's a specific activity. And even if they don't like it that much, they will still go for it and do it because it's something they know it's for the moment, and then they will continue with the normal classes.
Interesting. So, my learning from here mostly is, you need to know the person before. That's quite interesting. So, how do you know the person before? Do you directly ask, what game would you like to play? Or is it like you go indirectly, or from behavior you come to know, observing the person? It's difficult to know, the person. Or is it just like casual talk you have with the person? How do you really know the kids that what would they like?
Well, in my case, it will be probably different for someone else. I normally, as if they are older, I may do a survey. If they are younger, which is the normal case for me, they are like top 11 years old. So you need to see how they're growing, what they've done before, and just ask them directly. What do you like?
Okay.
What do you enjoy? What planes do you play? You see them in the break time, no playing outside in school. You study them, or you ask the previous teachers, what have you tried with them? What do they enjoy more? But if you are with older students, probably, or you go new to a new school or a new high school or maybe college, and you want to implement a gamified methodology, you probably will do a survey asking them if they play video games or not, if they enjoy them, if they like some topics or that you feel confident with, and I will go to that point now, or if they love some TV shows, TV series, if they
Okay.
like programs like quizzes or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or things like that, right? You can ask them as much as possible. But one thing that is very important for me is that the teacher itself feel confident with it and feel comfortable. You cannot work comfortably with people who like things that are absolutely opposite of your taste, and then
Correct.
you want to go with them and do what they like if you don't like it and you don't accept it. You have to be open-minded, and yeah, you have to adapt as much as possible, because for me it's very important to work with a student-centered perspective. But still, you need to feel confident. And if you are, oh, I've seen this gamification, which is extraordinarily good, I loved it, I loved the outcomes, but it works a lot with collaborative work and cooperation, and I don't like that much. I prefer to have them sit individually all the times and work individually, but still I'll try to implement it. Well, well, anybody spot the elephant in the room? Probably it won't work, right? Because a design is attached to the dynamics and elements that you are using in this gamification. So it probably won't work. And if you want to go with cooperation and you haven't cooperated ever with other teachers to design something or work in a private company, in a big team, cooperating a lot for a purpose, and you are really motivated with this purpose, is something inside you, an internal motivation, then probably you don't know how to teach to cooperate with a mutual objective and this sense of purpose with the students. So it's very important that you feel comfortable with it. And yes, you have to ask your students, you need to research, you need to do some research and investigate, but you need to know where you are. And and find a common ground between your students and yourself. But yes, you probably will have to learn about Pokemons, or you will have to learn about
Yeah.
many other things that you didn't think that you will have to. But yes, you have to adapt if you really want to engage them, because you are entering their world before you invite them to cross the wardrobe and take into Narnia, right? You need to go to their world and invite them to come to your magic world, your kingdom, where everything is possible, and there's no punishment for failure, and it's just a learning opportunity and all that, so they feel like they're really able to do anything.
Okay. So it seems like it's quite difficult to do gamification,
It
especially for
is,
kids.
or not.
But what I feel is, everyone has some kind of kid in, their heart. So even if we talk about adults, somewhere there is a kid, and when you start games and all, they would have that kind of kids coming out of their heart. Okay, so on that note, I would like to ask you, one of the challenges that we just discussed is finding a best fit game with the person, individual. That is one of the challenges. Are there any other challenges that you might have come across? It might have turned into an opportunity, but any other challenges that you faced?
Well, one of the main challenges, and I'm trying to overcome these late months, is it is much easier to work with other people, with other experts, and sometimes you don't find that help. Maybe you don't find that help in your own school, but there are a lot of communities, a lot of groups that are eager to work with somebody else, and sometimes also it's difficult to give continuity to your work. So if you are designing a marvelous gamification, and then next year the teacher will have the students, speaking mainly for elementary or secondary education, you know they're not going to continue with that
Mhm.
methodology. Maybe you are not doing the students a favor always, not always, because you are maybe changing the usual methodology a lot, and then they will feel a little bit lost because they need routines also. So that's something to think about as well, right? When you do this kind of gamified designs for your methodology. But there is a lot of people working with it. And what you have done this year may be useful for somebody, even in another country, for next course. Or you can say, we have, for example, a Discord server, and with a lot of teachers say, I'm going to work with the Middle Ages next month. Are you going to do the same? Oh, yes, I have a project about that. Here's the resources and here's the methodology I use. Yeah, I'm going to work with that too. Why don't we do something together? And then you do it. Because if you are just working with a textbook, well, easy, boring, probably, but easy, right? You just get the textbook, go to page 48. Now you read this, do these activities, and so on. That's it, easy. But when you want to design a methodology, and you want to include your own resources, and you want to adapt what you're doing to your narrative or your teaching style, there's a lot of work to do. And being a teacher is not easy. If somebody thinks that being a teacher is something like very comfortable and so on, well, maybe I won't judge, but maybe it's not really your vocation, and you might find something different to do, because you will have to improvise, you have to adapt, and if you really want to motivate the students, it's not always their fault if they're not highly motivated to learn and get good outcomes. So one of the struggles that most people find is that it's a lot of work. I can do that. It's a lot of work. And you said it's not easy to do gamification. Well, it's not easy, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it alone, because it's not easy to build a house, but we build houses all the time, and we build like skyscrapers, but not one person. We build a team and we work as a team, and we have an expert in design, and we have an expert in architecture, and we have some engineers, and we have some HR people who hire the best employees, and you have psychologists who motivate everyone when struggle comes. So you as a teacher have a lot of people caring about students and caring about other teachers. That's why, for example, I founded Sandbox Educación recently, because I felt that this connection between teachers are needed, and that we sometimes feel quite lonely in our classrooms, and we need to find the confidence in other people who have tried before what we are trying to do. Has anybody tried this before? And then you ask openly in the network, internet and social networks, and you see a lot of people who are doing the same, even better than you imagine, and say, hey, can I use that? Can I use your experience? Can you help me a little? Yes, of course, right? Well, now you are a teacher asking another teacher, and you are in a country, I'm in another country. We don't speak the same language, right? Definitely Spanish, English is not my first language. And yet we're here talking and sharing information and trying to engage and motivate other teachers. So we are doing well. We're doing what we're supposed to do as highly motivated teachers who wants to improve the quality of education and all around the world, which is a very beautiful motivation. I really thank you for this interview, because I'm feeling much more confident than I expected. And you know why? Because you're asking me the questions that I love to answer, the things that I am passionate about, right? That's what we need to get the students do. Ask them the question they feel passionate about. And it's not about, hey, what are the phases of the moon? But yeah, hey, look, the moon is in this phase, but remember, we can only open the mighty door for the cave, which is its crescent. So are we going to have to wait? Yes, we need to plan it for 7 more days until the moon is in the right phase. Okay, so we plan it, and we plan a project to wait for those 7 days and prepare ourselves for the mission and all the gears and equipment we need. Yeah, you understand where I'm going. So we engage before we engage, and then we can engage students.
Okay, so one of the challenges that I often heard, especially for teachers, is that you are not master of all. Okay, so especially when it comes to subjects. So how is it like? How difficult it is to maybe coordinate with other teachers to share concepts and gel it well with the game, or different stages of a game, or different elements of a game? How easy or difficult it is to do that, just communication part, or maybe um, really doing it? So what are your
So
thoughts?
you're asking somehow if every content or every subject can be gamified?
Yeah,
Is something like
so
that?
yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But yeah, can you do a house with any materials you want? Probably not. Or probably you have to adapt the type of house. Maybe the construction procedure will be different. The materials you have to use combine are different, or the strategies are different, or maybe something will work in Siberia, which is where it's very cold, but will not work in Central Africa, which is very hot, right? So yeah, everything won't work the same way, but still you have a lot of different strategies and resources, and sky's the limit. So as people of the same subject around the globe, try to connect with others who have had experiences with these subjects and find inspiration. And then try. There's nothing wrong in trying, right? If you are really confident on something, or at least enough confidence to try something with your students, and you can ask them openly, hey, do you want to try this? And then you can try that, right? And you can try to design a different strategy. You have seen something that you think it's lovely and that will work perfectly with, I don't know, science. And well, if you implement it with math, you will say, yeah, probably will work. But if you do it with arts, well, maybe the objectives are different, because maybe it's not that conceptual what you're looking for, and it's more about competence and skills that you are developing. Well, maybe you can adapt the challenges instead of doing, for example, a quiz to play with them to do that. Maybe you can ask them to have how do you say, an exhibit. And you do an exhibit and you openly let other students to vote the best pieces of art they are creating, right? So, and then you can create a narrative saying that you are going to participate in an international event, or you can just find a school in another country or in another city and say, we're going to do an exchange project, and we are going to exchange pieces of art, and we're going to vote, and then we will decide, and we will visit maybe, right? So again, it's the narrative. It's the cheapest one. I love that because it's the cheapest way of gamification. You made an immersive experience, sometimes investing zero, right? Zero money on it. And then you can add as much as you need or as much as you can afford. Because sometimes, again, maybe the school won't support you, maybe you have to pay yourself, or maybe you have unlimited resources to do that. Well, try and design it accordingly to your context and your reality, right? But mostly it's about getting the students engaged. So find what they like. And if it's art, well, find what aspects of art they like and try to find inspiration, and then try. If it doesn't work well this time, it may work better next time. Which is important here? Self-assessment. Assessment, not only, we always think about assessing and evaluating the students, but what about our own methodologies? What about our own practice? It is very important to self-evaluate and also to let the students somehow criticize in a positive way and according to their level the teaching experience, the education experience, to see how they have felt, if they really liked it, if they don't, how are they feeling about the subject. You can ask them before the course and after, and you can also do a midterm assessment somehow. It's not something very difficult. It doesn't have to be a full audition of it, but yeah, you can ask them openly and see how it is going and then improve it, right? We are not born with the full knowledge. Oh, he's a gamification expert, he knows everything from the very beginning. No, we need to learn and we need to practice, and sometimes it goes well, sometimes it goes wrong, and sometimes one student is not engaging and the rest are, and you say, what do I do now? I cannot let this kid behind, but
Right.
I cannot also stop everything for just one kid. So you need to adapt a little bit so it becomes part of the group again. So again, psychology, neuroscience, pedagogy, there's a lot of different lines of work here. And if you count with people to help you, will be easier and better.
Okay, so actually, my next question was relating to the feedbacks, and you have already answered that, so I'll not be asking that
Sorry.
question. I'll be jumping onto the another question. My question would be, who is your inspiration, and what is there any inspiration or anything that inspires you, or anyone who inspires you?
Well, when I was just studying gamification, I saw people like they were in a higher level, but I didn't get to see exactly how to implement those theoretical content or ideas and theories in the classroom. So for me, my main inspiration are my colleagues, the people that are at my level. Because sometimes you hear theory of flow, and then the users or players classification, or UKQ with the octalysis and all these things. And sometimes when you're starting and when you haven't implemented gamification in your classroom, you are like, wow, what such beautiful names that everything has and how interesting everything is. But yeah, how do I take that to my classroom? Well, the same way that teachers see the Bloom taxonomy and things like that and say, well, there are verbs. I understand verbs, but how do we put them in the right order? Yeah, I know. I understand those words. I understand maybe what you're saying, but then I go to my classroom and yeah, how do I teach students to do 3 times 4 and with that,
No,
right? So how
I can relate with Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, it happens with me also. Okay, so
yeah, there's a lot
so
of things, but then
yeah.
your inspiration are your colleagues, even those who doesn't gamify, because at the end, everyone gamifies somehow. And some things that you find are very old and classic, and it doesn't look like gamification at all. Sometimes they are very good practice because they get students engaged and responsible and say, okay, that's classic, but that's very interesting, the way they get disciplined and with the routines and the what. And then I can include something that is maybe more fun to compensate, but you cannot think that everything old is bad and everything new is great, because sometimes which is newer it's not that tested and says and or maybe it won't work with your group because they're used to something different. So look around at your teachers. And I work with Docentes Gamificando. Sorry for the Spanish. It's like gamifying teachers. Is a group of teachers with which where I'm included as well, that divulging and working with gamification, and those are the ones with the Discord server and say, hey, we're gonna work with this. Who've done it before? Me. Those are my real inspirations, because I know I can relate to what they do, and I see the videos of the students doing things and photos and articles and all the content directly, no in a magazine, no in a video, no something that you can maybe, I won't say fake, but it's easier to get just the right picture with something which is very famous and probably will tell you only the good things, no, about their experiences sometimes. So people next to you, close, look in your community, your country, your city, your schools, the neighborhoods around you, and ask them. Those teachers would probably be your best influence.
Okay. So my question next is relating to this particular statement of yours. Are there any, good books that you have read and you have gone through that you follow, or maybe some course, or maybe some groups? It could be a Facebook group which are good enough to discuss gamification seriously and practice gamification. I'm asking this question mainly from the perspective of an enthusiast who would like to know more about gamification, learn more about gamification, and try to implement in the class probably.
Well, when I started studying gamification, I saw a lot of foreign authors. I love the work of Carl Kapp, for example, and I have this field book and his experience and his blog. I follow him a lot, or Yuka Chu, or Andrew Matioski, and I don't know if the pronunciation is right. Sorry about that, but. I love that work, their theoretical work, and with Carl Kapp, more practical work, actually. And then I started getting to know more Spanish authors like Cristian Negre or Salvador Carrion. And then my colleagues now, Iñaki Bergoyen, and others, Bernardo Jarreño, Carlos Borja, which are Spanish teachers that are developing a very, very interesting way of gamification, which includes sometimes the whole school in the same narrative, like Bernardo Jarreño does with his school. He's a headmaster of the school, and he makes it possible that all teachers in the school and every kid feel the same narrative, right? And this year, for example, they were working with Disney because the students chose the topic, but then next year they're gonna jump to the dinosaurs. So you see how different can be the students' interest, right?
Right.
From Disney to dinosaurs, like, wow. And they enjoy it, but they do a survey with the students and ask them and do it, right? So sometimes, yeah, Docentes Gamificando, I recommend you, though it's in Spanish. Lately, what I'm working more is getting to know this experience in my surroundings, we could say, in Spain or Latin America, and teachers that work. Maybe it's It's a society model closer to mine and a reality which is closer to mine. So it will help me better understand my reality and my context. And it will be easier to adapt projects from these people to my own groups when I work. Now, as a teacher, I'm moving to different schools every year. So it's hard for me to do everything I said before. I still try to do it, but I have to start my gamification maybe a little later than I wanted, which is at the beginning of the course. And I have to get to know the students before I start something. But anyway, by the end of the first semester, it's all working, right? So it's mostly about these groups now for me. Docente Gamificando, Sandbox Educación, the group I founded to design resources and get these good quality resources and combine and cooperation projects, get to as many people as possible. And now we have collaborators that are helping us translate everything. Like you propose a breakout template for Geniali, and then next day you have it in English, French, Portuguese, Italian, German, Spanish, of course. And it's amazing how people get engaged when something they like, right? And for example, Geniali are now creating, I don't know if you know this platform, but it's a kind of, it's a platform that it's kind of, imagine a PowerPoint that you can interact with during the presentation mode, and it's all web-based. There's no app for that. So the editor is in the web, and then the presentation is in the web, and you can also share your presentation, and people can reuse them if you want them to be reusable. And then you can adapt it, and you can introduce like rich contents with JavaScript. So I am programming now some blocks of rich content that you can do. You can improve the qualities of this platform. And there is a huge group of students in many countries now using that. Well, we're using that to gamify our classroom and to help people gamify in an easy way, fun way, like when you use Canva, for example, which the editor includes a lot of images and a lot of elements you can include very easily. Well, it's something like that with Geniali. And we are now working a lot with that. It creates interactive content where people can work with in the classroom, and both in the classroom and at home, which is very interesting now that some people are confined or working like virtual classes because you cannot go to school in many countries.
So suppose, if I am interested to learn, I'm from non-technology background, so I don't understand this Java and all. If I want to learn, I am interested, okay, so I am interested in gamifying things. So is there any way, do you offer anything to people like us, maybe in the form of workshops or conference or anything, any event that you do, from where we can learn, maybe your YouTube channel or some other place from where we can learn, we, in the sense, teachers who are not necessarily from engineering background, especially IS background. So is there anything for us? Because we want to implement it in the class.
Well, we're growing now. We're starting this project. Docentes Gamificando started like late April last year, and then Sandbox started like in November last year. So we're working on ways of communicating and divulging these scientific strategies are in a rigorous way. Next course that we start in September, we're trying to see ways to have maybe a Twitch channel, or well, we have our YouTube channels where we share videos mostly. And well, now lately, almost every week, we're having a live session working different topics. For example, we have had a webinar about the use of avatars in classroom and in education in general, which was very interesting. And we share like different platforms where you can create avatars and get the students create their own, and also talk about security issues when you are working with computers and in the network, and you're sharing your real image, and how important it is to have like a cover-up, something like to protect the identity of everyone when you go open, live in the internet. Also, we are doing a crowdfunding to create our own avatar platform to create avatars adapted for teachers in with a historical perspective, like doing projects about prehistory or Middle Ages or something like that, Romans and Greeks and all that, which is very fun. And you can evolve your avatar and so on.
Wow.
Also, last week, actually, this Wednesday, we presented in Sandbox YouTube channel the new template for breakouts and learning landscapes and things like that to gamify your genialis, and it's good. Well, we try to get a larger audience. It's not easy because this media storm we live in, and we are getting information from all around, and people also are at the end of the course now, and it's very exhausted, and they're just looking to go out and escape to the beach or somewhere. But yeah, we're trying to increase this visibility. Now I am doing podcasts or webinar with Guatemala or with Chile or with Mexico, now with you. And so I accept every invitation to try to talk about this topic, because we want education to be effective and fun and significant for the students and for teachers as well. So we're trying to grow. Now we are very young, we're a small group, and we're trying to get bigger and find people like you, very motivated for gamification, to keep growing and create this. I don't know if the word in English is synergy, I think so, but create this connection and cooperations to do larger projects and keep getting people to enroll and join us in our madness of gamification.
And experience flow.
Yeah,
Okay, so
it's like I'm not taken by the current. Remember.
yeah, that's very important. So this is the last question that I have for you, and this is a little game. Okay, so what
Oh.
we'll do is I'll be asking you, I'm putting forward some words, and you'll have to find a word that comes first to your mind, which is related to
Oh.
that word. Okay, so that's quite
Okay.
easy game.
Okay.
So that would reveal a lot. Okay, so that's why we
Okay.
would like to have that. So you're ready?
I think so.
Okay, so we'll begin with design,
Thoughts.
work,
Work obligation.
play,
Play.
play,
Fun.
engagement,
Purpose.
validation,
Validation.
yeah,
Fulfillment.
experiments,
Experiment. Um, Excitement.
story,
Theory. And complete.